the session, and the participants may also take some time to fill in the feedback forms in the chat box before you leave this meeting. Now I may invite Dr. Sujata to take over. Dr. Sujata, please. Dr. Sujata, can you hear me?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Binu. And I congratulate Dr. Binu for arranging such a webinar series in this very relevant topic at this time. And in this series, we are having for 3 to 4 different topics handled. And today's session, we are conducting at this socio-economic lecture series. Today it is being started, and we are having our Dean, Faculty Dean, Dr. Anil Kumar, for giving the introductory remarks for this series. As Dr. Binu said, he is a well-known extension scientist and our Faculty Dean also. And I welcome you, sir, and for this session. And I request you to give your introductory remarks for this session.
Good morning to all. Respected Vice Patron of this program, distinguished speaker of the day, Dr. P. Siddharaman Shivakumar, Dr. Binu P. Dr. Sujata, and my dear friend. I'm very happy that we are going to start an online lecture series, that is the Socio-Economic Lecture Series 2020. I think it is the first of its kind in Kerala, especially in social science. So I take the opportunity to congratulate Dr. Binu and her team for taking initiative and organizing this program as part of the CAAST program. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Today the topic for the first lecture is the conducting socio-economic research during and after the pandemic, challenges, opportunities. We all agree that in the present context is a very important and relevant topic. Regarding this pandemic, this is the first pan-India biological disaster, and of course it's a global disaster. So we never anticipated such a disaster or pandemic about 6 months ago. And we are not sure how long it will go. So it is going to affect every segment and aspect of society and economy. It has a tremendous impact on every aspect of society or dimensions of society. So naturally the lockdowns and controls in connection with this plan is going to, naturally it will have its effect on agricultural production process and marketing of agricultural produce. Naturally, we are, as part of the scientists of Kerala Agricultural University, we are much more concerned about it. So as a result of this pandemic,
Sir,
hello.
Yes, sir. Now it is audible.
Okay. So naturally, farmers, agricultural laborers, and rural poor people are the most affected because of this epidemic. So we have to think about how to overcome the crisis as agricultural scientists. So we need to formulate, as scientists of agriculture, we need to formulate strategies and programs to overcome this crisis. So here comes the importance of social science research. Now, the results of socio-economic research should be able to provide research information and policy prescriptions for mitigating the adverse effects of this pandemic. This is also more important in the case of agriculture, social science research in agriculture. Agriculture economics and agriculture extension, they should be able to generate data in such a way that appropriate programs and developmental programs can be organized in a very effective manner as early as possible, at the earliest. So what I'm thinking is that as social scientists, we need to have a historical perspective while analyzing the problems of society. We should not forget that as Indians, we experienced many famines during the pre-independent period. For example, Great Bengal famine. Hope you all remember different famine conditions. The starvation, the poverty. This was not a result of inadequate food production alone. Because the discriminatory policies and colonial policies of the British government, along with insufficient food production, contributed to this. So this situation influenced our early leaders to formulate, to focus program agriculture during the early 5-year plan, so as to achieve self-sufficiency in food production. So the need of the hour is to ensure food security. When we ensure food security, we will have the confidence to face any eventuality. So the reason special program of the government of Kerala is a special endeavor towards achieving this, ensuring the food security of our state. So what I'm trying to say is that as social scientists, as extensionists, as economists, we should be able to collect data and generate information as rapidly as possible so that those information can be utilized on war footing to formulate appropriate programs as rapidly as possible. So that will be the responsibility of the social scientists, especially in the agriculture sector. So I think this lecture, Dr. Kumar will be deliberating on this. And Dr. Shivakumar, he is going to give you the lecture today. So he is a well-known scientist in agricultural extension of at CTCRI. He is an expert in methodological science research, and he published many articles and books. And he is the chief editor of Journal of Crops. It's a peer-reviewed answer. So on behalf of Kerala Agricultural University, I take this opportunity to invite Dr. Series-2020 Shivakumar for delivering this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your enlightening words. And as I very rightly said, we have to learn lessons from the past and act accordingly in this COVID situation. And for this, we will be getting a very much direction towards this particular aspect from our guest speaker, Dr. Sethuraman Shivakumar. I will just introduce him. He's a postdoc fellow from Florida State University, and he's a BSc AG graduate from Tamil Nadu Agriculture University and did his MSc and PhD from GB Pant University and Orissa University, and presently working as the principal scientist at CTCRI Trivandrum. And Dr. Anil Kumar was saying, he's a well-known scientist in the field of extension, and he is having several publications, more than 30 publications to his credits, including several international journals, books, etc. And he has conducted wide research with respect to the psychological aspect of eating behavior, technology acceptance, like that, various social aspects in this particular field of agriculture. And I welcome warmly, sir, to this seminar series. And I think, is it audible? Sir, Dr. Sethuraman?
Yeah, it's audible, madam.
Yeah, okay, sir. Okay. Very warm welcome, sir, to this session. We are eagerly waiting for your talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Respected Dean and Madam Binuboni and Madam Sujata and other faculty members of different KAU and different universities, as well as the scientists, students, and a diverse group of participants. So I thank Kerala Agriculture University for giving me this opportunity. Like this is one area which we are going to have in the future. Like we talked about, there is a pandemic and there is a new normal. We talk about after pandemic, like there is, we use it the term as a new normal, where the way we are going to research it is going to change. So let me start my presentation. Madam, are you getting the screen, presentation screen?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, madam. This is the topic which we have chosen, like conducting social science research during and after pandemics. We are almost at the end of the lockdown period, and still pandemics is there. And then the idea was like to give some overview about, like we have also conducted some online research during the pandemic period, during the lockdown period. One with the farmers and another with the startups. I'll also be sharing my experiences along with that. And what is going to come in the future, like when we make a research program for the future, because it's not about only in, during this lockdown period, maybe after the lockdown period also it is going to change. So the premise is the focus of this presentation is social. I am focusing on two aspects. What are the different science research themes which are coming out of the pandemic situation for, and the ways of conducting research during the pandemic and the new normal situations. The premise is the pandemic has transferred the functioning of the extension systems, because we always talk about research, but the research is an integral part of the academic and professional system, where research is expected to give solutions to the problems faced by the academics as well as the professional extension system. Primarily, I will say that the professional extension system. And the COVID has transformed in a very unexpected way. It's not new, like we are our fathers or our grandfather has experienced. Probably like none of them have experienced, like only we are the first people to experience the pandemic situation as of now. And there is a need, like we cannot say the pandemic has changed the way. That means that it has created some challenges as well as it has created many opportunities, I will say. Like it's different from disaster. That we'll see that how the pandemic is different from disaster. And the approach for this presentation is to develop a framework for conducting the context-specific extension research. I'll say that pandemics is primarily a context-specific research. Like it will not come again. It may come again, but whenever the pandemics is over, there is a likelihood of coming back to normal. But still, it's like whatever the leftover, whatever we felt in the pandemic, it is going to come in the new normal situations. And how to address the challenges by exploiting the opportunities in a more sustainable way. So my point is like I'll be starting with the different, what happened during this COVID period, and what are the researchable issues which are emerging out of the COVID period, and then then post research, social sciences, direct contact method. Like we go to survey, we go to focus group, direct contact the people and do it. Because when direct contact is limited or restricted, or sometimes it's no, what kind of approaches we have to follow. So when you look at it before going to the COVID, we have to see some of the facts about the food economy in India, because food is the buzz term during the COVID. Everybody talks about essential, everybody talks about food, vegetables, fruits, and groceries. So if you look at the food economy in India, the food economy is totally urban driven. So I am talking about not the food produced at their home. I am talking about what we purchase, because COVID has affected the food economy, the purchased food, not the produced food. Produced food means especially the farmer is affected, but as a consumer, it's a purchased food. So if it is a purchased food, because producer is an integral part of it. Suppose if you are unable to buy it, if there is a disruption in the purchased food, it is going to have affect the both producer as well as the consumer. And again, if you look at the food economy, it is mostly non-food grain perishables. Almost 80% of the food economy non-food perishables, so the fresh vegetables and fruits, processed products, and others. And the mode of accessing food, 92% of the total consumed food at average Indian home is purchased from the outside. Even in the rural area, because this is the data which I have taken from Economic Weekly, which is based on the NSSO survey there. And about more than 2 to 3 lakh samples they have collected the data. And the even in rural areas, you can see we talk about sustainable agriculture, food consumption in the rural area is purchased from outside. That means that we are going into a market-oriented economy there. Mostly, the food is mostly manufactured and sold by the private sector. The food market in India, 95% is contributed by the private sector and only 5% through the public distribution system. Please remember, we talk about food security a lot, but the contribution is only 5% of the what food we are consuming through in a home in a month. So dominance of post-farm gate consumer price. That means that whatever is purchased, like we have a MSP, so no, we have an MSP for purchasing some items, MSP is given, but the consumer price is determined by the what is happening purchasing the raw material. That means that 60% of the consumer price is going to the post-farm gate, not to the farmers. It is going, only 40% is going to the farmer. And again, about 70 to 83% of the food consumed in India are handled by small and medium enterprises. So they are the primary food producers. We have a perception that there are big companies are there. We are buying food from them. It's not real. 70 to 83% food consumed at our home in an average Indian home is produced by small and medium enterprises, not the MNCs. And the majority of the rural income comes from the non-farm rural employment. We talk about agricultural income. We talk about in agricultural income is composed of several things. Whatever comes from the farm and whatever comes from the labor work, whatever comes from the farm related activities, including processing. But unfortunately, in agricultural income, 61% of the total income is coming from other than crop. That means that the people are diversifying their work. They are actually reducing the, I don't know what mean to say that the percentage of the income coming directly from the crop is very, very limited. It's only 39%. So with this background, we will see that what happened in the COVID situation. So COVID is a pandemic. There are different terminologies there, epidemic and then endemic, then pandemic. Endemic is something confined to one particular community or one sector or one area. Epidemic is something in a particular community, there is a more number of people are affected by some disease, that is an epidemic. When epidemic expands its scale, it is called as a pandemic. Like when it is confined to Wuhan in China, it is called as epidemic. When it went to all the other countries, it is called a pandemic. So what happens in a pandemic is there are two problems which are happening. Pandemic per se is not creating any problem because we want to protect ourselves from pandemic. We are taking some measures that is affecting our supply chain. One is a movement restrictions, people and logistic. There is no movement of people and there is no movement of logistic. Another thing is limited functioning or closure of the institutions and the processes. So these are the two major aspects, aspects of the pandemic. Like I will say that the lockdown. So what happens here is, madam, are you getting my voice?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No
Yeah.
problem.
Okay. Yeah. So these two aspects together, it has contributed to the major thing which we witnessed is a supply chain disruption. So harvesting is a problem, storage is a problem, marketing is a problem, and again, fortunately, it has come during that lean season after the harvest. Maybe if it comes during the production season, then there are other issues also. And again, there is a limited access to the markets. Farmers, they are unable to harvest it, or even if they harvest it, they could not store it properly, and even they could not, if they have, because most of them are perishable commodities, and very limited access to the market. Most of the markets are running only a certain period of time. And again, it also applies for buying and selling, buying of the inputs and as well as selling of the produce. And again, shortage of manpower, the labor issue. Another one is limited access to the farm machinery even for harvesting as well as sowing for the next crop, and a limited access to the technology. Like there are some issues we talk about the like a storage issue. And storage, there is not much technologies are available to extend the shelf life. And again, limited access to the credit. And again, they were paying money for their EMI is continuing. Fortunately, government has given a EMI holiday for a period of 1 year, then it's okay. Otherwise, it's going to create problem. And again, limited access, very limited access, because nobody gives a loan during the lockdown period. And especially, I will talk like SMEs are most disturbed than the farmers. The food production SMEs, we have conducted survey. I will be sharing at the end. And a limited access to the extension and advisory services. So these are all the things what we saw in during the disruption period and during the lockdown period in the farmers and producers perspective. So what happened because of this reduction in farm gate price, slowing down or closure of farm related business, reduced agricultural income and reduced access to the food, because that is the ultimate thing which has happened, especially in case of migrant laborers and farm laborers, and they also felt the problem of the food security. So when you, and to understand the supply chain disruption, because I'm focusing more on supply chain disruption because that is a major thing which happened during that lockdown period. And there are three kind of problems are affecting the supply chain. One is natural hazards and climate related disaster, and food chain related crisis. Something like a production is less, or maybe some price is very high, and there is something has happened in the food chain, that some crisis has happened. Maybe due to that non-availability of the cold storage and other things also create a problem in food chain related things. And protracted crisis. Protracted crisis means that there are some countries which are frequently affected by some disaster, because it's a continuous kind of thing, or some countries which are permanently living in the poverty line. That is a protracted crisis. In case of supply chain, in case of our supply chain disruption is primarily a kind of food chain crisis. Whatever we are facing is a food chain crisis. So I have given source in most of the slides. You can refer it if you want to get more information. You can see, and before coming into supply chain, because there is a lot of confusion in our system. What is supply chain? What is value chain? And in many cases, we use the terms of value chain and for the supply chain. And supply chain is a basic skeleton. It's primarily a marketing channel. Not only marketing channel, it also covers how our agricultural produce is produced, like where from the procurement is done and where from the labor are hired, and how they are hiring, what are the different processes from beginning seed to the final, at the farmers level. And again, it also extends to the post-harvest processing or maybe traders, and it goes to the market. Then finally, it comes to the consumer. So supply chain is the skeleton of all these things, from beginning to from seed to input to labor hiring, and again it's a skeleton there. Value chain is basically maximizing the value in a supply chain, but slightly there is a difference here. The focus on supply chain is managing cost and efficient delivery. Primarily supply chain is focused on, it's an industry based concept. Like a supply chain concept was developed for only one industry, like a food processing industry or leather industry or whatever. They focused on how the industry is procuring the material, how they are producing it, and then how they are marketing it, and how they are making the produce to the consumers. So it is primarily an individual industry kind of concept. But the value chain, when we apply to our agriculture is not a single industry. There are many actors, many industries are there. So we took the mother concepts from the supply chain there. But the other differences is in supply chain, based on consumer demand, a company is producing something and it has to reach the consumer in time at a adequate, means reasonable price in time. So it has to reach, the product has to reach the consumer, so consumer is more satisfied. But it's not the same in value chain. Value chain, a company is trying to get a competitive advantage, because in value chain starts with the consumer's problem. It is not start with a company what produces. It starts with what the consumer want. They do the market survey. From there, they decide what kind of products to be produced. Then again, the product is produced at every level. They want to make maximize that benefit. So in our supply chain, in our value chain in agriculture, we have the farmers to the ultimate consumer, but the focus of consumer value is not clearly considered at every level. But that is a difference when you have a concept of supply chain, when it is applied to clearly I will say that it's an uncontrolled supply chain in many cases, especially in agriculture. And then approach is top-down approach in case of supply chain, but in value chain, it's a bottom-up approach because consumer is the king in value chain. Whatever consumer needs, the same thing the trader has to purchase and the same thing farmer has to produce. That is the meaning of the value chain. And here the sequence you can see product request, supply chain and customer. But in your case of value chain, customer request, value chain and the product. So it goes in a reverse way. It's like a more of a kind of participatory kind of thing. The value chain is a more of a participatory kind of thing. The level of analysis with respect to agriculture is it's an individual firm in supply chain. Value chain is primarily an uncontrolled, primarily I will say that a trader controlled chains. Trader is the main person who is controlling the value chain in agriculture. And when a disruption comes, there are supply chain risks are having a two different kind of type of supply chain. One is operational risk, which are day-to-day disturbances when a company, because I said that the supply chain is a company-based concept. So whatever the day-to-day disturbances are happening in the company, that is an operational risk. The same thing is also applied in our value chains. Because what happens in the disturbances, but we don't really document those disturbances, but we have a different way of approaching the value chain there in agriculture. And the disruption risk, this is a risk. This is the one which we are going to have more focus on this presentation. These are the low frequency, high impact events caused by the disaster or pandemic. Because it's not happening frequently, but when it happens, it is havoc, it creates havoc. So when the disruption is primarily the random events, like I said in the previous slide, that cause a supplier or any other element in the supply chain to stop functioning, whether it is a complete functioning or partial functioning or for a period of time. So it actually comes back because like in case of pandemic is not a permanent thing, it's a temporary thing, but for an extended period. So naturally they will be coming back. So there are four different kind of disruptions happen. One is due to the environmental disasters, extreme weather conditions. Second one is geopolitical problems, political instability, trade restrictions and terrorism. Then economics, demand shocks and price volatility. Then technological issues are infrastructure failure and network issues. ICT failures also lead to some kind of disruption in the supply chain. So there are the four different kinds of sources which creates the supply chain disruption. And here in our case, it takes among, I will not say that pandemic is classified into only one source. It is taking the more than two or three sources. The pandemic is taking it more than 3 sources, both in terms of the source as well as its effect. But there is a difference here. Because we have a lot of knowledge about the climate resilience, we talk about adaptive capacity, coping capacity. Almost all the concepts are applied in the pandemic, but there is a difference here. There are 4 levels. Scope. Scope means all disasters are focused on certain geography or sector. Because flood will come in only one area, maybe a couple of states or more than 3 states, but the pandemic will come everywhere. And it covers all the geographical area and irrespective of all the industries. Pandemic affects all kind of industries. Spillover means something like if you are throwing some rock into the lake, first you will see the bigger circle, then smaller circle. That means that a disaster means wherever it is having a problem, it will have a bigger circle, and the other areas which are away from the disaster will be having a minor effect. But it's a Thomson-Reuters impact factor. And it's a very good work. If somebody is more interested, you can download the papers and read it. And again, now I am coming to the component of resilience. And then what is the meaning of those things? The coronavirus is affecting and we are going into lockdown. The lockdown is creating a supply chain disruption. And there is a response from both government as well as from farmers as well as the institutions like FPOs have taken a major responsibility, and departments, especially we talk about the role of extension and advisory services has come to a limelight during this lockdown period. We are really proud as an extension scientist. We have to be proud of that. And even farmers collectives like APOs and KVKs. And there is a book from ICR. Like anybody who is interested, you can download from ICR Extension Division. How the KVKs and other grassroots level organizations, primarily KVKs, I will say, responded to the supply chain disruptions. It's a very good book. You can download from ICR website. And there are, when supply chain happened, there are 2 kinds of responses are coming. One is a mitigation and another one is adaptation. mitigation is trying to find the cost, because the supply chain disruption is not primarily because of pandemic, it is because of the lockdown. So we are trying to relax some of the lockdown so that the supply chain disruption is not affected. But adaptation is primarily the actors level. So how they are adapting when the supply chain disruption is happening, both as an individual, as a group, as a community, how the different actors in the supply chain have responded and trying to reduce the impact of the supply chain on them. Resilience is something different that we will be seeing there. And what is mitigation? Mitigation is a reduction of losses by lessening the impact of epidemic by targeting the causes. Mitigation means you are targeting which is the primary cause of the supply chain disruption. In this case, the primary cause of supply chain disruption is the lockdown. So government has played a major responsibility. They are easing down the lockdown rules, allowed the agricultural operation and the marketing, they allowed the markets to open in a limited time, and agro advisories were sent to different farmers to prevent the further infection, because vegetables and fruits, the infection, especially in Tamil Nadu, it is already proven, and transport of agricultural produce by road, and facilitating marketing through the grassroots agency. These are primarily the government level interventions to mitigate the impact of lockdown on the farmers as well as the consumers, the supply chain actors, I will say. Second one is adaptation. It is primarily by the farmers or supply chain actors by themselves. The crucial actions or plans that a community or household or an individual will employ against the current or anticipated impact of a pandemic or epidemic. One, you can see three aspects like a crop insurance, the people who are already insured there, and the people who are enrolled in the PM scheme, they got the benefit because the money was dispersed during the lockdown period and they got some relief there. And again, FPOs helped the farmers to aggregate the produce and directly selling to for consumers, so that the consumers price, the producer's share has increased there during the pandemic period. And a custom hiring center, many custom hiring centers, managed by the groups or FPOs, they were giving the facilities for harvesting and then storing and even for transportation. They were all helping. Even government also directly intervened. Even corporations, they were procuring directly from the farmers and selling to the supplying to the consumers. So there are several things. Supply chain actors themselves have taken the initiative, either in an individual or group form, to mitigate, to reduce the impact of the lockdown. Resilience is something we do it for the future. That means that you are affected, damage is done, but you bounced back. That is called resilience. Resilience is primarily a long-term strategy. Like you can go for building the farmers collectives, FPOs, SI, FIG, SSG, and farmer club. You can think about in the future, and using the digitally networked technologies. Actually, they will come in both the adaptation as well as in your resilience. It helps in developing a strong market intelligence and as well as the direct sale. Even there are CTCRI has developed one technology where buyer seller, connecting buyers and seller. So even CSIR also developed a similar app, so that it will be installed in your mobile, or it will be installed in somewhere. Like a CTCRI one was it was there in the website, where a buyer can tell like this much thing is available with me. Then seller can ask, both can share the mobile numbers and they can discuss with them. This is basically a kind of a platform creating for the buyer seller interaction. And farm diversification is also a long-term approach. Like in many cases, there are a lot of case studies published recently by ESA and other cases where how the farmers were using the digital technologies, and then how they converted this produce into the value-added products, and how the farmers collectives and the KVKs have helped farmers to mitigate, I'll say that to recover from whatever they faced, the problems. And that is, we are all talking about a supply chain, a kind of a macro level. Now we are focusing more on how a food security is affected due to this COVID issue. There are 4 dimensions when you talk about food security. Food security is seen in 4 different dimensions. Physical availability of food. Like you can say in the farmers, food was abundantly available because it was not sold. That is a different thing. But the thing is, only the produce, what they produce is available with them. Because if you see the data which I have given in the first slide, even in rural area, 60% food is even more is purchased from outside. That is not their own sustainable kind of family. So they were all suffering because the physical availability of the food was a problem. And again, economic and physical access to the food means, economic access to the food means it's primarily a kind of income. So income is your economic capacity. Like you will be paying some money, and then in a economy, in a food economy where you are going, the majority of the food is purchased from outside, your income plays a crucial role there. Again, income is definitely reduced for all the farmers, and because they are unable to sell the produce, or they don't have even many cases. What we have conducted a survey for yams in Orissa. What the farmers were actually, they were very clever, I will say. They did not harvest the yams. They know that even if they harvest the yams, nobody is going to buy it. And again, for yams, the shelf life is very less. So what they did, they did not harvest, they kept that inside the soil. The advantage is they may be losing about 25 to 30% of the produce, but still they will be having some material to use as a seed in the next year. Because when you see the yam cultivation, especially elephant foot yam, this is Suran, the cost of seed material itself is 40%. So that means that they could not sell the previous year's produce, but still they could manage that 40% amount. 40% of the amount is saved because they used to sell everything in commercial system. So they used to keep only 10% of the total produce for their own consumption. 90% is sold. But since they did not harvest it, that same material can be met for the seed requirement in the next year. So there are very beautiful farmers' innovations have happened during lockdown. I will suggest to some of you can take up some research studies to document the farmers' innovations, whatever happened during the lockdown period, because they themselves have managed the issues. And even in Kerala, people ventured into the direct sale. Farmers directly came to the market and they were selling it. There are different ways the farmers have used to sustain during the lockdown period. Then again, food utilization, balanced food, RDA. So definitely we are getting only the essential during the lockdown period. I don't know about the how the rural household were surviving, because there is a likelihood of malnutrition due to this lockdown, because some research studies has to be conducted. Because all the food items which you are getting in a normal time, it may not be available during the lockdown period. And again, the intake, the portion size is reduced. The type and the quantity of food is also reduced. That means that the intake of ingredient and how they are meeting RDA, that is still in confusion. So we can take up some research studies on how the food were utilized during this period, and even adaptation strategies. Like we have conducted many surveys in the northeastern states. When food was not available, how they were managing, like they are reducing the portion size, and they are using the preserved foods, they are used as secondary staples there. And again, they were eating rice twice, and they are reducing the quantity of rice, and they are also making only one-time eating of rice, because household has a different mechanisms of reducing the food insecurity. So that also can be documented. And again, stability of the 3 dimensions over the period of time. Food security means we want a stable kind of thing there. It's not like a food security is a temporary phenomenon. Food security will be a long-term phenomenon if the first 3 aspects are not properly taken care. And there is another assessment framework by FAO, resilience assessment framework. It is developed for climate-related disasters, but this can be used for assessing our impact of the COVID also. That here you can see resilience pillars. They are saying access to the basic services, means we say that the PDS service and the health service, and because the third aspect which I was saying in the previous slide, that is related to the health, like a food utilization. And the second one is assets created and assets utilized. Because now if you go into the small and marginal farmers, I will say that during lockdown period, assets created is much lesser than the assets utilized. They might have spent all the saved money for survival during this period. Especially I am talking about the laborers and the migrant laborers, as well as farm workers. So that has to be properly documented, what happened to them. And again, social safety nets is like a PM Kisan is a social safety net, like a direct benefit transfer to the farmers, as well as the subsidies and special provisions given to farmers during the lockdown. They are all coming under the social safety net. And then adaptive capacity, we already saw what is the adaptation there. And then these are all which are already there. Then there is a COVID issue happened here, lockdown is a shock. And they used some kind of coping strategy, consumption smoothing, I was telling, reducing the portion size, asset smoothing. They will not be using like companies when they take up the companies, they were not using the full capacity. They were using only 5% capacity, and they were all thinking how we will be improving in the future. And again, a new livelihood adaptation. What are the different new livelihood strategies we can decide? That time also they used during the lockdown period, as a coping strategy. And then the result, what happened? What happened to the result at the end of this coping strategy? So such kind of frameworks can be used to assess the impact of COVID, and even what is going to happen in the new normal situation, that we can use it. There is a full book in FAO. You can download it. It is free of cost, and it gives a clear-cut description about this methodology. You use some kind of advanced methods because they are using multiple indicator, multiple causes model. It is primarily a kind of structural equation modeling, combination of formative and reflective indicators. There you can see this is the first thing happening. Because of this, the resilience capacity, the shock is happening here. And then there are two measures of the resilience capacity. One is Simpson index and another is food expenditure. So you have to go for you have to measure these assets. And then whatever we discussed in the previous slide, there are different coefficients, different methods are there. The measurement model measures whether the indicators you have chosen are really reflecting the resilience component there. And then your instrument is measuring what it is supposed to measure, both reliability and validity, which are concerned with the measurement model. And the structural model is the model, the sequence, which is this is the hypothesis. There you will be getting the estimate how this asset is impacting the resilience. This is an index. This is a kind of index there. And then how the resilience has helped people to survive, to minimize the impacts of the shock. So you can download this. I am not going to talk much about this. You can download it. There are many papers which are using this model, and even on climate resilience. Also, even here you can download papers and then you can read it. Somewhere you will be getting an idea. Because when I did the literacy review for this pandemic or epidemic, there are very few. There are few such papers published on supply chain disruption can be measured, or how the effect of pandemic on the individual actors and how the processes in supply chain are modified. Because of these, very few papers are there. You can apply the climate resilience framework here with a little modification there. And then the activities and research in the climate resilience building, there are the future researchers, what we can think about the, because we had a discussion about how the supply chain disruption can be measured, but at this level, resilience, how the resilience capacity will be built. One is the farmer-oriented entrepreneurship, because there are different kind of entrepreneurship, like we talk about startups, we talk about the MSMEs, we talk about the farmer-oriented entrepreneurship. There we can talk about the, we can focus on entrepreneurial personality, whether farmers are having the entrepreneurship traits. We talk about achievement motivation, we talk about the locus of control, creativity, innovativeness. There are different, several measures are there. One is a GT2, which is a free thing you can download from website, and you can see that if somebody is a farmer, is suppose if you are want to do some research in the FPO, farmer producer organization, there if you go and see that whether the farmers are really having the entrepreneurial traits or not. Suppose there are so many members are there, at least the people who are in the office bearer should have some kind of entrepreneurial personality traits. Otherwise, they are the people who are going to manage the, because FPOs are not like other previous collectives, they are the business oriented organizations. And entrepreneurship orientation scales, there are many scales are there which you can apply for measuring the entrepreneurship orientation of an organization, not for the how the FPO is oriented towards the entrepreneurship, that you can measure it. You can also develop new scales which are customized to FPOs, and a different group process, because when farmers collectives are there, there are different group processes like a group cohesion, then a compatibility of the members, in fact, I will say that we try to mitigate the negative impacts of the lockdown on social science research. But this is only a mitigation thing. Like it is not going to yield a long-term problem. So long-term means you have to innovate the different ways of doing the research. So there are traditional ways, three traditional ways, which I found that there are many methods. I'm not going to talk about even online focus groups, online semi-structured interviews, because when we talk about very advanced methods now, we will be fascinated towards using the advanced method. Again, the problem is we have very limited of software or very limited agencies which are giving that advanced online focus group discussion or whatever. So now whatever is available now, maybe for the next 1 year, what we can do is we can go for three kind of online data collection methods. One is a web surveys, like you develop the HTML surveys, send the link to them, and then they will be opening it through web link or email based link. Then they will be giving a response there. And again, email surveys, because many people are not good in creating the web based surveys. So they type it in the Word document and send it, you download it, you fill it up and send it back to them. So that is one way of doing the email surveys. Another one is a very, very important aspect which is going to come. There is a telephonic interview. So like you can call, you can fix up a time with them, and then whenever they are free, the respondents, you can call them, you can ask them and write down in your hand. Like you have to take a paper, questionnaire, you will be writing the answers, they will be giving the information. So these are the three primary ways which we will be using it for at least 1 year, next 1 year. For the data collection in social sciences. So there is a paper, there is a book chapter in the Good Practices Manual by Dr. Saravanan Raj and Bhattacharya. So the comparison between the different methods, postal survey, telephone interview, and then face-to-face methods, focus group, and online survey. Online survey is a naturally very cheap method, but as of now, I am just showing what is a comparison between other methods. But now we have no other option except for telephonic survey and online survey. There is two only available with us. It may be postal survey. I am not sure. Postal survey also will lead to the infection. So only two, we are left with only few options as of now. So online survey means something you are creating using a portal. The very famous method is the Google form. So Google Sheets, we will be also using the Google Sheet, but for analysis, but the Google Forms is the primary aspect. Like we create different questionnaires or scales there, and then generate a link, that URL, and then shorten the URL using some shortened URL, then sending to our respondents by the email. So that is a basic form. It's all free. It's not costing. And there are many paid forms. One is a SurveyMonkey, then a Qualtrics, and then a Survey Gizmo and a Typeform. Then apart from this, there are many freewares available which you can use it there. But I will be talking little later that please decide based on your requirement as well as the capabilities which they are giving it, and again the ethical issues and the privacy. Because the data what you are generating is stored in their web server. Because when organizations are shifting to the online survey, it's better to avoid the freeware because the data is not secure there. That we will discuss later. Like the Typeform, the last one, which this is a very creative software. Like when you are creating a 5-point scale, you can put the there in Typeform. You can use the figures. Like a pictogram, we used to put the figures. No, we can strongly agree means some smiling face. Strongly disagree means reverse smiling. So it gives a lot of user-friendly tools for generating the survey. So there are few things which you have to see while creating the online survey tools. The primary aspect when you are doing the online survey is, first of all, tool is not more important. The method, the facility which is giving is also important. Very important point is how you are going to design the questionnaire. And how you are going to design the questionnaire, how you are going to put your statements, and how to frame the questions, and what type of response type you are going to give. So we are not going to use only 5-point scale here, Likert scale. We will be using several kind of, because social science research is not all about the Likert scale. There are different scales are there are different way of collecting the data, rating scales are there. You have to be very, very clear idea about what is how to frame the question, what kind of response type to be done, and and then you have to see that how to use this output. Whether you go for some figures or you go for advanced analytics, because some of the paid versions will give some analytics also is possible there. Like a Qualtrics, you can do that. In SurveyMonkey also you can do some analysis, but not in Google Form. Maybe Google Form will give you some visualization of the data in terms of breakup, but not the analysis. And when you make a question, you have to be precise, clear, and concise questions. And the choice of online data collection should be based on the type of research questions you are going to take it. And there are now people used to make a lengthy surveys. Now page breaks are there. You can use a branching logic, whichever given in the SurveyMonkey. I will also show the SurveyMonkey platform. That we have the subscription for SurveyMonkey. And again, the sequence of questions should be logical. And actually, when you make a question, because what happens when you are making a question in SurveyMonkey, only in the last you can add it. You cannot add the questions in between. So after adding in the last, you have to choose the option move. So when you put a move option, then it will take the question to the place where you want to place it there. So that even operational of the software also very important. And the tentative, and sometimes the SurveyMonkey will give the predictions. When you put a question there, it itself will give 2 or 3 options where you can make how to refine the question, and also it will also give some option for which is the best response type for this question. And you have to avoid the leading questions, and you have to avoid the questions which are agreeable to everyone, like factual questions. And then you have to suppose if the options are non-exhaustive, you have to use the other options. And again, you have to be very, very careful in getting the privacy protection. So don't do any online survey without the pre-informed consent. You have to take a consent at the beginning. I will show you one example how to make the consent. The consent, we will say that this is the purpose of the survey. This is conducted by this person, and you will be asked to answer the questions, and your personal identifiers will be removed at the end of the survey. If you want to get the survey output, I can share the survey output with you, and you will be spending some 50 minutes in filling up the survey. All these things has to be there at the beginning before they are starting the survey, and long questions to be avoided. And again, the communication of the survey results to the respondents, not only respondents, even the people, because nowadays we have the organizations, and we will be taking the data from different parts, organizations, also different organizations. So you have to write a letter to them. They will also be interested in the research results. Like suppose if you are collecting data from KVK, at the end of the survey, you have to share the questionnaire with the executive, the in charge of the KVK, as well as the organizations which are governing the KVK, both the universities as well as the Atari. So we have to follow some kind of disciplinary, ethical, and structured approach in using the online survey. Again, another issue is a response. What are the issues we will be facing while collecting the online data collection? I will strongly suggest you go for a paid service, because paid service will give additional tools as well as facilities, and again data security, because the data whatever you are collecting when you go for an organization or for your individual, the data has to be secure. Like you can go for even many free platforms, but this data is not secure. So whatever the data you have generated, even before you publish, somebody will publish it. If somebody can steal from online platform, you have to be very, very careful there. So I will suggest paid service is not very expensive. SurveyMonkey, the pro version is only 15,000 rupees per year. So considering we are spending a lot of time in travel, so that means that now online survey we are not going to spend money for the travels. So 14,000 is nothing. Even a department can subscribe to SurveyMonkey, or even Qualtrics. Qualtrics is very expensive, not affordable in Indian conditions. But Qualtrics is the best online software, because I personally used Qualtrics, I personally used Google Form, I personally used SurveyMonkey, I used all these 3 platforms. But I found Qualtrics is the best one, but it is very expensive. But SurveyMonkey is better in Indian conditions, which can be affordable there. And ethical conditions, you have to be very, very careful while sending the data, sending the questionnaire to people. You have to get a pre-informed consent. And nowadays there is a trend, people are recording in case of telephonic interviews. No, they are recording audio or video, especially in case of online surveys. So better to get the consent from the concerned respondent. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. So recording voice is not permitted under the Cyber Act. You please read the Cyber Act. And then recording other person's voice without their permission is a violation of some of the cyber laws. So at the beginning, when you are taking a prior informed consent, you tell them that your voice will be recorded. Are you okay with this? If he is saying no, then don't do it. And again, when you are collecting survey from the industries, because we have also conducted some survey from the startups and industries, and at the end, you have to ask, because nowadays there is a curiosity, or I'll say that there is a habit of publishing everything in the social media. Like you conduct survey and send a blog paper. But when you are doing it, when you are collecting the data, there should be a last question, whether can I publish this your information as in the social media. You have to put yes or no. If the person is saying no, you should not do it, because people have a habit of writing the startup stories. No, whenever you are collecting data from startups, especially startups and other companies are very, very sensitive to this issue. Without their permission, you cannot publish their stories. Even without the farmer's permission, we cannot publish their data. That is also another ethical consideration. So you always put a question at the end: can we share your data? Can we publish your data in the social science? But you need not write it when you are going for only research, because you already told in the pre-informed consent that it's a research work. It is a non-commercial activity. So you need not ask again. Then another big issue is the response rate. In most of the online cases, online surveys, the response rate is about 25 to 30% or even less. Because I have been doing this online survey for almost last 3-4 years, not only now. So what I found is you have to select the samples in such a way that they will be responding it. Number one means the people who are sending the qualified, I will not send I will never post my online survey in a WhatsApp group. We will be sending individually to the mail, either to the officer or the concerned person with a request. Many times I used to spend a lot of time to make the draft individual letters with the name, dear doctor, somebody with the name. So that gives a lot of advantage, because they are likely to respond it. Otherwise, no, if you are putting in a WhatsApp group, if you are putting in some social media group, so you need not know who will be responding it, and you also need not don't know whether that person is your sample or not. So inclusion exclusion criteria has to be seen. So to increase the response rate, you select the people only who are really having that experience. Send the individual mails and make a reminder. After 15 days, you send a reminder, not in the email. Try to do it in WhatsApp. So that's why people will be more responding. Or else, if you can also call them and make a reminder. But don't call directly. You send a message. Can I call you now? Because there are many ethical things has to be used while you are going for an online platform there. Online data collection, we have to be very, very careful. People, you should not ring the people, the experts in the night 9:30, say that they kindly respond to the survey. Okay. And then again, issue is accuracy of the data, because we are not controlling the data collection environment. So we are sending to them and they are responding it. And again, there is another issue. There will be a lot of incomplete responses. That's why what I used to do is all the survey questionnaire, you have to make a compulsory. And again, that is also another issue, because if you put so much of compulsory things, at one stage, people will be dropped out of the survey. And everywhere, when you design an online survey, you are at the end, somewhere in the side, you have to open quit survey. You have to always give them the option of doing the quit survey, but that is not available in many cases. Many online software, only paid versions, you will be getting that quit survey kind of options there. And accuracy of the data, it's whatever happens, we are not having any control over the environment. So we have to see, that means that you have to go for a large sample. Like if you are bothering about accuracy of the data, if your sample size is 300, go for a 600. We call it as a oversampling. So based on the response rate, there is a formula. There we will be calculating how many number of samples to be taken based on the response rate of the previous survey. If it is 20%, so your sample size is 300. So only last year survey only 20% have responded, means how many people did not respond, that also you have to add in the excess sampling. So you have to take a larger sample. That is a primary aspect in doing the social science research online. So I will be showing you a little bit about the Survey Monkey.
Sir, how much time it will take? Our time allotted is
Few minutes.
Okay, sir.
Only few minutes, madam. Otherwise, I will not showing the Survey Monkey. Now we will go to
No, this
directly.
will be useful, sir. This will be useful for the students.
Okay.
Yes.
Madam, are you getting the Survey Monkey platform? Are you getting the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I already logged in here. Here, these are the different my surveys. So these are the different surveys we are conducting there. You can create a survey and everywhere you will see that number of responses, designing, collecting, analyzing. Suppose if you have a pilot survey, if you want to change some of the topics, you can go to this design. You click this design, then you will be going there. And if you want to, but what happens in between if you are changing it after the pilot survey, the original responses will be affected. And this is the survey designing platform you can see here. This is the informed consent. So we are writing it. It's for academic study. You request to participate in the survey. It will take approximately 5 minutes. And then your participation study is voluntary. This thing you have to write at the beginning. Then this is the design phase. Suppose if I want to edit this, I can click it. I can edit there. And there is an option here. I made it as a compulsory option here. And I will also show you how to create the new template. So you can make a create survey. You click this option. So start from scratch, purchase a panel. Actually, they are also purchase. You can purchase the respondents there. They are also giving that option. Even you can copy paste the previous survey. If you want to make some changes in the new survey, you can do that. You can start from a template. And this is I am starting from the scratch. I am making a new survey. I can put some lockdown survey. You can make the survey category community feedback, customer feedback, employee engagement, different kind you can do that. And here one question at a time means break. It will come only one question will be visible to the respondents. Classic means full survey. Scrolling, you have to scroll to see the full survey. But one advantage is what I will suggest is please go for a classic, because once you are making one survey at a time, at some point of time, people will be having a fatigue. They really do not know how much is left for them unless until you are making a status bar there. So that means that they will quit the survey in between. So in classic survey, everything will be given in a scroll form. So they can see how many questions are remaining. So that's the advantage of going for a classic survey. So then you create a survey, it will be opening that template. So you can make a new question there. So you can either make multiple choice, and different options are the drop down check boxes. Please, before using the survey, online survey software, please read which are the response type appropriate for which question. Because otherwise, simply we cannot write it. We have to be very careful in designing the online survey. It has to be properly understood. It has to be properly scored. Then only you will be getting the good result. Yeah. So I am showing how to do the, once the data is collected, it will give a summary. So in this survey, there are 17 questions, one page, 10 people have responded here. Now I will be going for the analyze results. So analyze results is something like you are downloading the data either in the form of a Excel sheet or in the form of the PDF. There you can see the responses, individual responses, whoever has responded. And then you can see the respondents' answers in a single page. So all the answers individually it is given here. Suppose if you want to download the responses, So you can go to exports and then you can save as export file. If you want to take a summary data, I will be taking in the individual responses data. I'll be taking in an Excel form, in condensed form. It will be coming in a zip format. So you have to wait now. It will show you when it is ready. Yeah, now it is ready. You can download it. So the results. So this is the results of the survey. These are all the, I can make it in a coding format also. Then I can extract this into SPSS or whatever the analysis which we are doing it, we can do that. Then presents results also it will come. And again, designing survey, a lot of options are there, but there is no time to do that. Okay. So this is all about my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a very informative session. And even if I am a biology side scientist, it was very clear, and you explained it in a very simple form and discussed the various aspects. That was very useful. And in this time, the extension researcher is the main link between the farmers as well as our biology side researchers. So for students, this is the main problem now, how to conduct their research programs. That was a major issue faced by the students. So many of them were asking. So your class was very helpful in identifying, at least for the social students, researchers. We can do this online through various platforms and the things. And for these FPOs also, what you said is very correct. Measuring the entrepreneurship capacity of the FPO is a very important factor whenever we are going for any programs and other things. And this ITC now, it is the main thing in coming. That is the role of ITC in this thing. So various softwares as well as various for market analysis and other things, now they are coming. Even though all these platforms are available, most of us were not utilizing this. That is a positive part of pandemic. Now we are studying, at least we are taking an effort to do this. So if somebody have some questions, please, we have 5 minutes to discuss. Please ask some questions. In chat box, I didn't see anything. Most of them are welcoming the presentation, and it was very informative, they are saying. One person has asked whether you can repeat what you have said about that response rate. You said no, that response rate will be, yeah.
Okay. So response rate is a problem in our online surveys because we are sending to different, a large number of people. And normally what we get the response rate is when you are sending to large number of people, it will be about 20 to 25%. So when you are taking the sample for the next year, you have to consider what is the response rate. Means you are sending to 300 people, only 20% people have responded, means only 60, that means that you are sending to 300, only 60% have responded, 60 people have responded. That means that you need 300, but you are getting only 60. That means that the same proportion to achieve 300, how many number of people you have to send it? So that means that you have to actually double or triple the number of respondent you are actually, number of people you are sending it. So that you have to consider. That is called as a oversampling. We call it as in sampling, we call it as a oversampling there. So that is one. And again, in oversampling also there are different methods. Sometimes we will be sending to the people who are not even knowing about that thing. Like we are sending to judges rating to different people. Some concepts, some areas like resilience and other somebody is using, they may not even understand that you are sending to a wrong respondent. At the same time, you also missed some group of people who are right respondent, but you did not include there. Yeah. So that is the people who are eligible to be included, but not included. Who are not eligible to be included, but included. There is a formula. That's a complicated formula. Yes. There is a book on survey sampling. as well as how to do that. There is a Dillan book. I don't remember exactly the title of the book. Postal Service. So there you will be getting the detail about how to make the mailed questionnaire or online survey more effective.
Sir, another question is, please talk on research funding opportunities during pandemic.
Yeah, research funding, there are some special, I will say that opportunities are already created. If you go into, now I am coming from a journal. There are many journals, they are going to publish a special issue on COVID, both for agriculture, industry, and other areas. So if you have some data, you collect the data now, either through online or telephonic interview, start publishing it, because getting the paper published at the special issue is much easier than the normal. There are many, there is a journal called a Journal of Entrepreneurship in Emerging Economies. So they have already called for a COVID special, that by end of this month it is going to be over. So you publish it. Second one is, I am coming to funding. There are some special funding for the COVID, DST, DBT. If you go to their website, there is a special funding on COVID related problems, as well as to identify the solutions for this. So there is some option for agricultural students also, including the social science. And then from there you will be getting it there. And there is a special, even government, state government also, there are some special funding is available for COVID related issues.
Yes.
So funding is not a problem. Only thing is you have to be hurry now, because when lockdown is over, so people will slowly get to forget about this. So now you have to be in a hurry, publish the paper, get the project now, send it now. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Another question from Mr. Vivek. What about open data kit?
Open data kit, actually I really have no idea. I have to see it, because I think he also sent some message yesterday.
Okay.
So anyway, we will be sharing, if required, we will be sharing it. So I have not much idea.
Okay. Another question is, sir, from Rama Devi. How we can access the Typeform survey tool to laptop or Android systems, as the SurveyMonkey is paid version?
No, so even there they are having both. I think Typeform is also paid version. They are giving only limited number for online free, but the rest of the facilities are available only in the paid form.
And so, as you said, the paid form is better because data security.
Paid form is, because 14,000 rupees per year for unlimited service is nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah. So better to invest money in the paid form. Yeah.
And I think that was the questions that were there in the chat box. One more is there. Is necessary to communicate the survey result to the respondent? Any specific reason for this?
Yeah, one thing is, you can put a question at the end whether you would like to get the result of the survey. So that is an ethical consideration. If they say no, you need not send it. If they say yes, maybe even Google form, when you use it, when somebody responded is giving okay at the end, when you are completing the survey, it gives the summary. It automatically gives the summary in Google Sheet. When you are using Google Forms. So suppose, in many cases they are blocking also. They are not showing also. Better you ask them whether you want to see the result or not. If they say yes, you share it. If they say no, don't share.
Another question is that because social science research, minimum it is said that 3 years period is kept as the base to study a true impact. So her question is it good or worthy to do research considering COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, it is there. Impact is not 5 years. Impact can be the output, can be the outcome, can be the impact. Yeah, and there are different dimensions of the output. There are different dimensions of the outcome. So some dimensions can be done immediately. Like you can say that I will say that COVID, how the supply chain processes were affected. And then how there are many FPOs, they did a different kind of marketing or interventions there. Which intervention is best? Like some people have directly sold the material. Some people have arranged the transportation. Like if you take there is a blog about Meghalaya. So there is a ICT project which arranged the logistic transportation. Instead of direct selling, they arranged only the logistic transportation from farm to the selling point there. So there are different kind of intervention. You can see that which kind of intervention is much better, which created a more impact. Even VAPCK is also doing it. I think VAPCK also doing the impact assessment of their interventions. You can always do that, but it may not be an impact. Impact can be done only in the 5 years. You can go for either output or outcome.
And recently, NAM also they are also conducting so many webinars and other things detailing all these ICT things, which are the various platforms that can be used, which are the apps available, etc. They are using. Then another question, one more is there. What was that? What is your suggestion about how many respondents should be there approximately for online survey? That was one more question.
No, I will suggest the response rate is about 20 to 25%. Then you calculate.
Yeah.
Suppose your required sample size is 200. So response rate is 20%. Means you are actually going to get only 40 responses. That means that if you want to make it 200, multiply by 5. So you send it to 1,000 people, you will be getting 200 respondents. Yeah.
Okay, I think that completes the questions. And our organizer, Dr. Binu, has provided a link also for giving the feedback for the participants. So further also the participants can contact our organizers or the sir, Seturaman sir also. And I thank you, sir, very much, sir, for giving us such a detailed thing and in a very organized manner with a simple thing, and also especially addressing the students how to conduct their research during this pandemic period. And I will invite Dr. Binu. Can we wind up, Dr. Binu?
Yes, Dr. Sujata. Thank you, Dr. Sujata. Thank you, Dr. Sebi. Details.
There is some problem for your voice. We are not. It is not audible.
Can you hear me, Dr. Sujata?
Yeah. Now it is clear. Please.
Okay. Okay, I once again thank Dr. Sujata for moderating the session and Dr. Anil Kumar sir for offering the introductory remarks. Dr. Sedram, it was an excellent and informative talk. I think our students have cherished your words and it will be guiding them in the future conduct of the research. It was such an informative session.
Audio.
Thank you all. Thank you once more.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you all.
Okay,
That's
thank
all.
you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you all.
Some problem with the Binu's audio.